Oh boy, back. This is my first, well, anything this year really. So I just thought what I'll do is just hop on and just give a very, very quick update because I've been working on the book, obviously. I've made a lot of progress with that, coming up to 300 pages. There's a lot going on with the book, which is why it's taken longer than anticipated. As well, I'm being an autistic person. I started writing it and then it expands because I found so much stuff that I can't just leave out of it. I've got to do it justice, and it's very expansive. So what I'll do is I'll just give you a quick rundown of how the book is progressing, the topics that we've covered, and where it's at. So it starts off in Britain. It looks at the tin trade, obviously. It goes into Pythias of Massalia. It talks about the founding of Massalia because that was one of the biggest trade ports. So that's probably Pythias was probably working with traders who knew the trade routes, and so it explores all of that. Then it discusses the Veneti, or the Veneti, who were the traders involved in tin trade from Britain to Europe. So it talks about them. I've found some of their inscriptions. There's not very many, and what I do in the book is analyse their epigraphic corpus, so their inscriptions. It analyses their material culture, so that's archaeology, and it also looks at the genetics. Then from there, it looks at the Veneti as a wider group, because there's groups of them in the Baltic, there's groups of them in the Adriatic, there's groups of them on the coast, the eastern coast of the Adriatic, and also the Black Sea. So then I've gone really deep into all of them. I've had a look at the alphabet, the language, the links between Italic and Celtic as well. So we're getting a really good comparison between the Veneti and the Celtic and Germanic groups, because they actually, in my research, I'm not going to say a conclusion yet, they've been the mediating group between the Celtic and Germanic. There are scholars who think that they embedded themselves in Baltic culture as well, and I actually think that that could have happened with Celtic and Germanic peoples. Also, I've got quite a lot of evidence, for example, some of the linguistics. So you know Tuer in Tuer de Danann, that is the same linguistic root as Teuton, as in the Teutonic people, and the Veneti use it as well, the Adriatic Veneti. That's just one example. We also, weirdly enough, have a god name that is the same as a British god found at Hadrian's Wall, and there's other things, but it's a really interesting thread. I don't want to spoil it because I found it a lot, but then after the Veneti, it then goes into a synthesis. So I start looking at the origin of the letter, done some work on that before already. I expand on that a lot. I show how certain divination practices evolved and how that relates to the letters. Geometry is massively involved, and so is the Orphic and Pythagorean cults, because all of the information I'm finding, it's all relating to these trade networks. I found some of the names mentioned in the cult are the names of certain places in the actual trade networks as well, and even the Pythagorean stuff and the big stuff's massively connected. For example, Pythagoras, his father was a merchant, and apparently he got a lot of his early information from his father, who was a merchant. So the trade network and the cult is heavily, heavily connected from what I'm finding. And I've even, I've found texts where key points of the trade route are mentioned, and these are the Greek texts. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm currently writing a massive piece about Pythagoreanism. There is an underground basilica in Porto Maggiore, I believe it's called, and it's an underground basilica, and it's been interpreted as a Pythagorean building. So I've gone into that, I've gone into the monad, I found some really interesting things. For example, the word monad in ancient Greek, numerology, isopsephy equals 361. You might be like, why 361? Well, the Greeks did have a placeholder number for 0, so their 0 started at 1. So it basically monad equals 360. It's all connected to geometry. And then from there, what I need to do next is, after I've written about the Pythagorean stuff, I'm then going to connect it to the Orphic. And there's texts out there which literally conflate the two, and the language being used by, for example, the Pythagoreans for, say, Hestia, it's the same language that you find in the Orphic hymns as well. So they're using the same terminology in the texts. Then what I need to do is show how that then connects to the trade network, and then how that relates back to Britain, and essentially how I think all of these they come from a common origin, spread via the trade network. So I need to do that bit next. That's where I'm at. Okay, outside of the book, I'm trying to just give you a quick overview because I don't want to keep you all here. But I've just recorded some content as well. I've written a script. It was about 6,000 words, and it's actually content from the book as well. It'll be the first video. I'm presenting it in a talking head style presentation with information popping up on the screen as well. So I'm trying a slightly different approach, and it's starting off with the Britons, the origin of the Britons, who the Britons are. I'm going to look at the linguistics, what the word Britannicae, which is the earliest recording of Britain, Britannicae, what it means linguistically, how it's reconstructed, what the term Briton means as people of forms or shapes. It's then going to look at the genetics as well, so the different layers of different groups that made up the Britons. So we're going to be looking at linguistics, genetics, archaeology, and the language, and we're going to look at some of the sources as well. So that's all recorded. It's going to be edited, and it should be out over the weekend. So that's basically it in a nutshell. So I hope you're all doing good. I'm just going to have a couple of these comments. Name of the book. Man, that's going to be the last job that I do. I don't know a name yet. Naming things is the hardest thing ever. It's like writing a song's not that bad. Come to a name at the end. It's hours. So I don't know. We'll see what the name is at the end. I'm trying to think. Children of the Sun, maybe. That was one of the short list. Hey, Cap the Taurus, good to see you too. And thanks for the question, Darko Alias. Here we go. Alexander the Californian. Oh God, I've been waiting as patiently as I can for your content. I'm sorry I've kept you all waiting. Christmas is just hectic for me. I don't really have a good time over Christmas. And I've had some ill health as well over that period. I've still been working away, and I'm sorry I've kept you waiting on the content. It is coming, and there should be something out this weekend. What would the process be for getting academia to accept the ancient Greeks use Welsh? Why? As in Cyprus, sounds like Cuperus. Well, it's already, I mean, when we pronounce the ancient Greek, anything that's rendered in a Y, such as Scythian, is Scuth, is a U in ancient Greek. So that was the original pronunciation of it in in Erasmian pronunciation, ancient Greek anyway, which is the reconstructed pronunciation. You know, they look at other similar related languages and how they pronounced it, and they reconstruct it to just the same as they do with Proto-Indo-European. So, I mean, for people who know ancient Greek, like myself, we know that the Y, anything that's written with the English Y now, it was pronounced with the U. But it is very interesting because I use an example of Britannica and Britannica because it was originally the P form, and a good analogy of that because the Proto-Celtic root that it's being reconstructed to is Crit, and you can hear that's Kwrit, Crit, which has the digamma after the kappa at the beginning, and then that spans off into P-Celtic and Q-Celtic. In P-Celtic it becomes Prit, where Britannicae comes from, but it actually in Goidelic Q-Celtic it becomes Cruth. So the kappa and the digamma kind of collapse. So instead of Qurit, it's Cruth, just a C and a R, U-T-H. And this is used in early Irish texts as a word for the Picts. So this root It's got a P and a Q Celtic version, and in the video I'm releasing over the weekend, I actually use the analogy of Latin and Greek, because they almost have a similar thing going on with their word force, for example. So in Latin it's equus, and in ancient Greek it's hippos. So one uses the Q, one uses the P. So I use that as an example. So it's very interesting, that, to be fair. So we'll get into that in the video this weekend. So I've been looking a lot at the genetics of the Britons as well for this. So it's very interesting. Ain't no worries at all, Darko Alias, and thank you all for watching. So Scythian sounds like Scottish. So I was just talking about the Scottish. So the root for Scythian, I mean, in the Greek, skuthido, which is a verb which means to basically behave like a Scythian. You can hear it's skuth. It's skuthikon. It has the U in there in the ancient Greek. And I believe Scotty, now this is really interesting, because it is actually a different root in Indo-European. It's a Scot root rather than a skuth. But they are quite similar. However, Scotty comes from a Proto-Indo-European root, which also is very prevalent in ancient Greek, and it's actually almost unchanged. So they think Scotty comes from Skotos, which you'll hear, it has almost a Greek ending, os. As Proto-Celtic and ancient Greek, their declensions actually weren't too dissimilar. And it's the same linguistic root as the word Scotia, which I've obviously made videos about this. Scotia, which is, I mean, people say Scotia in Irish mythology, but it is actually an ancient Greek word which means darkness, and it was an epithet of Aphrodite, Scotia, an epithet of a specific aspect of Aphrodite that was worshipped in Egypt and Cyprus. So you can see that the old Celtic words, quite a few of them, are actually really similar. Somebody else here. I've read Scythians don't consume pork. Any connections to Scottish pork? Well, that is not just a Scythian thing, because there was taboos. The early ancient Greeks also had taboos like this. So I write about it in the books. So in Rhodes, for example, they basically a boundary marker for a precinct of worship. On it, there's certain taboos. You weren't allowed to wear anything with animal leather, pig leather, stuff like that, because they had there was animals that were taboo to them, and they had to wash and stuff before they could go into these precincts. So actually, it's also in Indo-European culture, this, when you look further back. So it's very interesting to me, because the more you look into it, I begin to realize the Greek term Scythian, it's kind of like a generic term, but it seems to me like they're really describing these horse culture, groups that were moving around. So I do actually think that there is a kernel of truth in some of the texts. But just to reaffirm there, open your eyes, it does seem to have been an ancient Greek practice as well of having these certain taboos. And actually, there's some texts that say I think it's I'm trying to think if it was the Galatians, but it said they didn't eat pork on account that a boar killed Adonis, for example. So it's in there as well. Very interesting. Could pork cause issues with the rights or something like that? I'm not sure if it would have actually interfered with the actual application or the performance of the rites, actually physically, but it obviously had a big cultural impact to them. So it seems to have been quite culturally intertwined. I wonder if it is related back to the religious practices of the story of Adonis, for example. And that's really interesting that there's a bank in Canada called Scotia Bank or Scotia Bank. So, but yeah, have a look at Aphrodite Scotia, because she was worshipped in Egypt according to the Little Scott Jones and Cyprus. And so it is interesting that there is this mythology of Scotia, because as well the Banishariga, the Irish kingship wedding. I've done videos on this before. It's very similar to the hieros gamos, sorry, the holy wedding or marriage. It's very similar. And Maeve, in the text, she could share a linguistic root with Mia, and she even has the purple. She wears the purple in the text as well, which is, you'll know from reading the text that there's never, the allusion to the purple is never far away in these rites. So yeah, the linguistics are connected. For example, I always tell people, kuon in ancient Greek is dog. It's ku in Irish, so the Irish just simply discard the ancient case system. It's ki in Welsh, but that's spelt C-I, but their U's are pronounced I as well, so it could potentially have originally been ku as well. But it's still from the same linguistic root. You have methuo in ancient Greek, which means to be intoxicated. It's methuo in ancient Greek, to be intoxicated. It's methu in Welsh. So it's very similar, very, very similar, the early words, and as I said, the case systems as well. Have you heard of a book called We the Scythians? I have actually heard of the book. I've not actually read it. I've not looked into it, but people have recommended it to me quite a few times. So I'll definitely have to check it out. Yep, Selene says Scythians are a Y1A haplogroup. Yeah, that's right. The nomadic pastoralists are usually not limited to, but associated with R1A and R1B haplogroups. You know, are very prevalent. And with this this video on the origin of the Britons, the whole point of it is to show that when the Britons were around, they're not just a pure people. They're actually made up of a substrate of Western hunter-gatherers, early European farmers, and then Bell Beaker / steppe-derived ancestry. And then simply when the Anglo-Saxons came over, they just added another layer on top of that. It isn't the case of a wholesale clearing out and a replacement. And then I illustrate that with my own genetic results. And I use two. So I'm using ancestry because that tracks you against modern populations. And me being from Cumbria, which is very close to the northern borders, technically English, classed as English. I know for a fact I've got Irish and Scottish ancestry from my grand side of the family. And when I do ancestry, you can see that I cluster around people from Ireland, Scotland, and basically the border region in Cumbria. And then when I go on my true ancestry, which again, that's not showing that you're from a specific tribe or group of people. It's simply comparing your DNA to see how it clusters in comparison with ancient samples that were collected during archaeological digs and things like that. So then what I do is I then show where my DNA clustered these ancient populations. And even though I'm technically English from the northwest of England, Cumbria, I mean, that's linguistically the same as Cymru, which is what the Welsh call Wales. And you can see on there that my DNA clusters with Anglo-Saxons, with Brittonic Celts, with mainland Celts, with Gaels. So you can see it's not just a case of the English came and just took over everything. There was actually, you know, a blending of colours as well. So that's the whole point of the video, is to show that it's all about continuity and that there's no population on Earth that's technically, you know, just one group of people. This is how all populations are formed. So basically that's it in a nutshell. I'm going to edit it tonight and I'm going to try and get it out Saturday or Sunday for you guys. So let me have another quick look through these comments. Hello, Pavlov's Corn Dog, good to see you. I've not seen you for a while. Valerie Pointer, great to see you there. I've not seen you for a while. Thank you, my hair has grown a fair bit now. I need to get a bit of a trim. Celini Antonia says that use 5 databases themselves. Very good. I think probably the more you can get, the more of a broad spectrum picture you can get as well. So definitely a good thing to do. Thoughts on Michael Sarian's Irish Origin of Civilization? I've not read it. I've heard him talk. I've heard him paraphrase people like Comis Beaumont and who's the other one that he talks about a lot? I can't quite remember. But some of the etymologies proposed by Comis Beaumont and the other one, I can't remember what his name is now. Damn, that's gonna. If you can remember his name, put it down below. But anyway, some of the etymologies, in my opinion, didn't check out. Obviously, I've studied classical philology for over 2 years. I'm still on with that as well. So you know, I'm very grounded in the ancient Greek linguistics, how that then continues over into like Celtic and Latin and such. So I didn't agree with some of the etymologies that are being proposed for certain things. However, I'm in the camp, the train of thought, that there is a kernel of truth preserved in some of these mythologies. It's probably just through past hands, a bit of hearsay, and also you have to factor in that you've then got Christianizing occurring and them removing certain elements as well to obviously suit that that agenda, if you want to call it that. Your dad's side's Welsh and English as well. Very, very interesting. It's it always fascinates me because a lot of people, they don't seem to realise that even, you know, the Welsh technically, you know, there were as far as the Clyde. Damn, I'm getting that wrong, but they were up to the Clyde and Dumbarton and stuff. They went as high as that, and then when the Anglo-Saxons came over, I mean, this video we'll say the Saxon culture and language seems to have encroached from the east, and then you had surviving pockets of the Celtic British culture and language preserved on the west coast. So Cornwall, because the wall in Cornwall is from the same linguistic root as Wales, the whale in Wales, we shall say. And then Cymru, which is what the Welsh call themselves, that's preserved in Cumbria as well. So I also include that in the video. So I might have some more Welsh or Brythonic Celtic DNA from the English side as well. I'm just having a quick look. Right, I'm going to leave it there, guys, because I don't want to keep you all. But honestly, thank you for tuning in, checking out my update, and look out for the video coming over the weekend. And all have a great weekend. Great to see you all, and I'll be picking up the lives again very soon. Take care, everyone.